Hi, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the goddess Isis today. I want to talk a little bit about working with those energies. I have started a new class in this same space for 2020, so I'm going to be kind of doing things a little bit differently, and I want to kind of start out with working with some of these energies and Egyptian deities, and we'll kind of go into some of the same things that we were into last year and kind of expand on the same topics. Give me a minute. There's a lot of energy coming in, but I'll keep that for my next video I do after this. But there is a lot of kind of energy coming in. We're going into a new decade. We're going into a new year, and this has been a lot of what we've been working towards with this ascension too. Alright, so I always tell you guys, I'm like, I am not an Egyptologist, I am not a historian, and I kind of just pick out the things that resonate with me. I think that the goddess Isis is very important, especially when it comes to twin flames, and that's one of kind of the first Egyptian deities I kind of got led back to. I have been attuned to a few different types of Isis Reiki. It's an energy I'm pretty familiar with, but I kind of started, I guess you could say, working with her when I first woke up, because I, was made aware that I have this twin flame aspect, and it's an energy I really resonate with. I think that a lot of these deities kind of were able to transcend time and space. We're taught that they were actual gods and goddesses or deities. So I like those concepts. I like some of the other kind of religions and things like that that believe that there are lots of gods and goddesses, and even there are some religions or faiths that believe people could maybe transcend and become one of those divine beings or even an actual deity. I think that during Egyptian times that they were teaching about a lot of these same things when it comes to consciousness, and then I always feel like there's a big piece of that Akashic like missing, closed off, right? Access denied, and there's always a little bit of gap for me with where human consciousness was at one point in time and kind of how we kind of ended up here. There's kind of like these weird gaps that I'm kind of filling in as I kind of go on with my spiritual journey, but I'm always really interested in these places. So I think that Isis really just represents the feminine. We can see where a lot of, there's a lot of spin-offs with those letters being used in like Israel, certain, other places, things like that. So it is meant to represent the feminine, and it doesn't matter where we've seen that role kind of repeated throughout time. I think that that is a very, motherly, nurturing goddess type of energy. It's also a real fierce energy, right? Real wild kind of energy. And so we kind of see that theme. I think there's a lot of symbolism between Egypt and how Christianity even kind of came into being and things like that. There's such a synchronicity with some of these cultures as well, where we see a lot of the same myths and stories kind of repeating throughout time. I like to look at our notion of, looking back at Egypt, people consider it mythology. They say that about a lot of, history with Avalon, a lot of history with Egypt. I recognize these as actual, actual deities, our actual history too. So they're always like, oh, there's these beautiful, stories from Egypt. I really regard this as, not only our history, but our Akashic. We know that we're all one, we're all interconnected, and we're just kind of seeing glimpses of our own soul, and that there's a lot of kind of timelines that are playing out all in one and things like that. So I'm always kind of getting led back to these places. Like I said, Isis is a really powerful energy for being a twin flame. She was a descendant of Ra, and so was Osiris. I always say these twin flames were sibling flames, right? Sibling lovers. But we see that there was a powerful connection between her and Osiris. They actually were twin flames. We can see this is a really good account of that. I believe that you know, during those times that most of these deities did have twin flame aspects. That's in a lot of these stories, and it's really powerful, kind of the power of love. So I'm not going to really get into the story. I want to get more into working with these energies. I think a lot of you guys already know that there's a lot of symbolism in these stories with Isis using her magic, because she was a priestess, she was a magician, to resurrect Osiris back from the dead. And we see a lot of like real crazy stories with these gods where they're like killing each other, right? Killing each other and all these kind of crazy stories. But you know, it was regarded that her and Thoth were like magicians. They were clearly, you know, into some really crazy kind of, you know, Egyptian magic, priesthood. And so this is always a symbolic story. I always like to think it's really a symbolism of ascension and becoming whole again. That if we can become whole again, right, after a journey, we could become immortal. And I really regard these deities that they were more like paths that we could kind of follow for our ascension. They showed us that there were different ways of doing this and that people kind of had different stories. And at a certain point, all of these deities were wiped out as in not worshipped anymore, and they were replaced with more like Akhenaten's kind of version of the law of one, and that there's one creator and things like that. But for a while, these clearly were the gods. I always say that when we work with these energies, we're bringing them back into our reality. I got taught that when we kind of stop working with these energies, they go away, right? We're kind of bringing them back into reality, you know, making them real again. I put up a post about Isis last night and was talking about how these are aspects within you. If you understand consciousness, you understand that we have these inner worlds, right? And this really is a journey through our inner world, you know, our outer reflection. And these are energies within us that we can work with us. And so that's a lot of what we're taught. I think that this is a powerful energy to work with, and to do that you can like pray to Isis. You could make an altar. I put some tips up for making an altar. You don't even have to have like, you know, you could get a statue, a photo for your altar. You don't even really need that kind of stuff though. You can always just pray to these deities. I always say they're really telepathically tuned in and come when we summon them. So these are powerful energies. We were working with Isis energy because we're going to be working with that energy all week in this space, and we were working with that energy, and it's an amazing energy to bring into your sleep state as well. When I think of these energies, a lot of times I see the wings. The big wings, right? The big wings and things like that. These were clearly gods and goddesses that came from the sky, possibly. We can see an Atlantean connection with a lot of these things as well. They talk about an actual landing that would have occurred in Egypt and Atlantis. In the Law of One, they talk about an actual, you know, crafts landing on this planet. And they also talk about, you know, Egypt being one of the last times that there was one of these, you know, attempts to come teach people on this planet. So we can see there's kind of a connection with some of these areas too. Hi Alina, I'm good. I just wanted to do a little really fast Egypt talk. So, you know, for me, that energy's been very powerful because I have a lot of mother issues, among other things, right? And so for me to work with some of these divine feminine energies is very powerful for healing. It also has such a connection with me for the stuff that I'm learning here in England as well. They really kind of all stem from mystery school kind of teachings, and a lot of those teachings stem around love. We can see that with some of early Christianity and things like that, and the things that they had in common with these cultures. And you know, there's such a balancing. I think that a lot of our history was wiped out and rewritten, which is something we'll get into in this space. And I think that really, you know, we have this twin flame aspect within us, this kind of desire, looking for love, searching for love, and things like that. And this was really symbolic of a very pure love. We can see that they have the same kind of immaculate conception story, because Osiris was brought back from the dead, and they still had a child, Horus, who would kind of continue on with that line. And so these are really powerful. You can also see that Isis has the sun disk above her head, so you can see that she has that solar connection as well, kind of a solar goddess, and tuned into those energies as well. But these are powerful energies. Like I said, they exist within you. They're all past aspects of you. They're aspects of you. And, you know, it can be really powerful to work with these energies, especially anything Egyptian, things like that. So for sure, I'm highly recommended. You can work with these energies. You can make an altar. You could make a space. We're setting up an altar here, and it's kind of eclectic with different things we're into, right? Different things that we're into. So, you know, we have some like ascended masters on the wall here and things like that. If you're resonating with any of these deities, ascended masters, and there's so many of them. That's why we'll start getting into them in these spaces. There's so many of them. If you just need some more motherly love, right? More compassion, more healing, things like that. Old wounds. Isis is always amazing for these types of things. If you're looking for your twin flame, she will probably guide you to them. Powerful energies, especially when it comes to love, healing, compassion, things like that. So it's a really good energy to work with. I think that we should be just getting more spiritual in every avenue. When we talk about what happened from Egypt to here, it's easy. This happened to a lot of civilizations. They kind of stepped away from the spiritual, and this is really where it kind of ended up. So if we can bring more of this spiritual energy into our lives, you know, we can kind of get back to those levels of consciousness, I hope. So for sure, if you resonate with any of these deities, maybe go get a picture of them, put it on your wall, bring it into your space. You know, then we can activate these areas within ourselves as well. So powerful things. We're going to be working with these energies this week. I'm going to be putting a lot of kind of information up on it too. I have a meditation. I was going to do it today, but I'm going to go do a video. So we're going to do a guided Isis meditation in this space too at some point this week, which is really nice. So we'll be doing that next. I just wanted to get on here and kind of talk about, well, who is that? What energy is this? So these are clearly, you know, she's a goddess, and Osiris was also descended from Ra. They were descended from the creator god of the universe, the solar god, the sun god. And we can kind of see that symbolism throughout many cultures. I see it with a lot of native cultures where they kind of worship the same things and they're into the same things. We can see it with a lot of the pagan tradition, where they're, you know, waiting for the sun, worshiping the sun. We can see it with Christianity. Jesus is the sun that they're worshiping, and things like that. So we can kind of see how everything's kind of interconnected, and kind of how we kind of ended up here with where we're at. But these are really powerful energies to be working with, especially if you're trying to be made whole. We could always use some extra magic in our lives for sure. So for sure, really amazing energies to be working with. I started a new year for this space too. It's 2020 technically. Happy New Year. I'm going to really do a real video after this talking about it. Happy New Year, Porthole. It's an amazing energy today. It really is, because we're ready to step into the new. And, you know, we've done a lot of really hard, like, clearing and healing the past 2-year cycle we've done. And so things will be a lot lighter now. We're going into much higher frequencies. There's even talk that we might even have one of these solar flash events coming in the next few months with all of this solar energy coming in. I will tell you, there is such an increase of cosmic rays and radioactive energy kind of affecting us with the planet right now. These are meant to be good things. It's really activating our DNA. So, you know, it's really good to have more and more assistance as we're going through this ascension. For sure, it is amazing. We have ascended masters and these deities that are trying to assist this planet during this time. So it can be really powerful to work with some of these energies for sure. If anyone had any like childhood wounds, inner child healing issues, past things like that, working with the goddess Isis is really powerful for healing those things as well, because it's meant to be the ultimate divine feminine, you know, motherly energy. And for sure, we're trying to kind of activate the god and goddess within us for sure. And so this is the ultimate, you know, symbolism of that divine goddess feminine energy that we're trying to kind of step into too as well. All right, love and light.